We're going to talk about the dimension 3, dimension 6, and dimension 9. So, from what I'm starting to understand, you manifest through dimension 3 here, which is the catalyst, cause and effect, dimension 6, which is transformation, and dimension 9 in my mind's eye, what I know, it is the Godhead. So let's talk a little bit about why and how. Dimension 3 here is where depth is given to geometry. So here, the potentiator, this is the blueprint that your soul comes into life with. Could be your subconscious mind. That blueprint is in the matrix already. This here is the matrix. It's holding, see how this square is holding all these different shapes? There's shapes here, there's lines this way, and then there's a bird inside of it. This potentiator, dimension 2, second dimension, is where these shapes are starting to form. So this single line of your matrix forms shapes based on what your spirit complex right here wants to experience in this 3D life here on Earth. How does it do that? Through the mind complex. One of the laws of the universe is this is all mentalism. The law of mentalism. This law, I believe, is also the soul. So you have the soul, which is the mind complex. It's the spark. It's the proton. And then you have the spirit complex. The soul holds it all together. Your thought, your own thought. Your thought becomes free will through what your spirit complex wants to experience in this life. And based on this spirit complex's past experiences and past lives, this spirit complex right here, see the matrix? The spirit complex, the first card, first density is the devil. This devil represents past lives that this spirit complex has already had, that it may have some, I don't want to use the word attachment, but it may have some nigglies towards that it wants to transform into higher consciousness. So, for example, if your spirit complex, like my spirit complex, so I was born under the sign of Cancer, and when you're born under the sign of Cancer, this matrix is already going to be filled with insecurity. It's going to be filled with lack. So this soul works with the spirit complex because it's a mental universe, and the spirit complex is in this mental universe. So it's going to use the energy of the soul, the mind complex, the proton. So this I've spoken about before. This matrix here, this mind complex, first density starts with a single spark, right? The proton with energy. This energy can only expand upwards and downwards. It can't go anywhere else. This expansion creates such energy that you have your proton and you have your electron. You have your proton, your soul, possibly, I could be totally wrong. This is just what I think. Then you have your electron, the spirit. could be totally wrong. This here, the soul could be the electron and the spirit complex could be the proton. I don't know. But what I think is from this single line, from this engagement of energy, you start to form some sort of vibration. That's the spirit complex. This vibration then creates patterns from the spirit complex, what it wants to experience in this mental universe, depending on the thoughts that this spirit complex projects into second dimension. This begins to form shapes. It can form a triangle, it can form a circle, it can form a box. But these shapes are 2 dimensions. In 3rd dimension, the catalyst, cause and effect, your story kind of being played out. The characters are now in the story. That is 3rd dimension, the catalyst, and this is where depth is given to this geometry here. And when you give anything depth, it gets heavier. Then you have this, you'll create this body. You can see trees outside. Depth is created. So this is the fruit right here. The 3rd dimension is the fruit. Now, the reason I heard this somewhere, I probably heard it from Matías De Stefano, that 369, and maybe I didn't. I mean, don't quote me. I don't want to say I did. I can't remember. But the reason that density 3 or dimension 3rd dimension, 6th dimension, and 9 resonate for me as the only way to manifest is because once this subconscious mind, so regular shape like let's say a circle, or let's say a box, a square, once the depth is given to the square and it becomes a cube and it's now manifest and it's the fruit of life. Now, what we want to do in the higher dimensions, like let's say 6D, which is transformation, 6D is always looking at the story through the sacred geometry, and it's always trying to make it better in the sense of let's get this spirit complex here to this sun card and get the rays of the sun consciousness to connect with this 3D. But how can we transform the current thought, which is on a great wavelength? Let's say your current frequency is pretty good. Let's say all of this is your frequency. All these cards. See how my arrow's going? Frequency goes like this, right? I should use this hand. I can't. I'm not left-handed. But it goes like this, right? So follow this. If that's let's say that's your proton, this is your neutron, and this in between is all of your frequency. All these cards in between are your frequency. What this transformation, what this death card is doing, which is the body complex. And remember, you're a cell, you lose, millions of cells die from your body every single day. And as the new cells are replenishing themselves, growing and thriving in your body, what they want to do is these cells are what create the organs within the cells. Did I say that right? So these cells, which eventually are, they nourish your organs. They do a lot of different things in your body. These organs are what the chakras are. The chakras are nothing outside of the organs in your body. Remember, this is a 3D environment. So what we want to do with these cells, these new cells, is we want them to reach a level of super consciousness. So you want your organs to be clean, and you want the electromagnetic energy to be buzzing and vibing. You want those the synapses in your brain to be like pow, 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 so you can connect with the divine. And in order to do that, the organs need to be clean, and the frequency within the organs should be at a higher level. And your emotions control your frequency. So that's why this rainbow is here. So the death card actually represents transformation is happening every minute of the day if you allow it to. Depends on your frequency. And this death, which opens up the gates of consciousness to pour into your pineal gland through the crown, it's giving you your spirit complex, that awakening, and at the experience, check. Now we're moving on to a new experience. This experience was then, past, present, future. But it's interesting because these changes consciously, the transformations are made through presence. It's not made through thinking of the future or the past. Although the thinking of the future is of a higher vibration, but the transformations, every moment that we make a transformation is in the moment. You know what it feels like? The best way for me to describe it is it kind of feels like the aha moments. Like, you know, when you have an aha moment, you're so present when you have aha moments. And I've literally had aha moments and just looked around. That's how present I have been. And I know, wow, I'm literally like, okay, I'm playing and I'm winning right now in those aha moments. So, dimension 6, sixth dimension, transformation, is through the eyes of the significator, because the significator has no time and space. It's basically observing. So now you've gone through the fifth, you're observing what the experiences that you're creating. And in this transformation, here, remember, you have your third eye. You get to, for a moment, not look through these two eyes, your left and your right. You actually, in presence, get to connect with your third eye, which starts to spark, which helps connect the organ, the pineal, with the energy of the ray of light, as above, so below, which gives you this, don't want to say rebirth, which gives you this insight on the experiences that you have and where you can make them more aligned with higher consciousness. That's what this judgment card is. See this guy with his, I don't know what that is called. I can't remember. But he's calling for your consciousness. He's coming through the sun rays. And then the ninth dimension is where the characters are all, it's the hologram. God experiences you through all of these archetypes, but through third dimension, depth of the sacred geometry, sixth dimension, the intake of presence and light, and the working of your inner organs, which then come to balance. The hologram, the images are in the ninth dimension. So God is experiencing you as a hologram. No judgment in what you're doing whatsoever. But he's experiencing you through the he or she is experiencing you, this yin yang energy of God, through (3D), 6D, and that manifestation, if you can tap into the hologram and what's happening in that hologram, like I can shut my eyes and I can kind of see it. You can play around with the characters in the hologram. And the way I see 9D or have experienced it, and I don't know if I have, I feel like I have, I feel like I was in that, it was a weird, I was just walking one day and I just felt complete black. Even though I was out in the sun and going for my regular walk, I felt this complete like darkness, but there was so much love in the darkness. And then I started and I thought, oh, is this God? Because the only light in the darkness was mine. Then I started playing around with that light and it started creating outlines of bodies. And now when I think of my life and what I want to do, if I want to manifest or something, I just go into that dark, it's almost like a sphere, and I just start creating like the hologram of myself. I start creating the hologram of what I want. And then I put my organs into it. I put this 3D into that hologram through emotion, feeling like we're experiencing this right now together, God. It's you and me. I'm your light, you're my light. We're the same. We're one. And I feel like the darkness is always like the Godhead, and the light that I create through my chakras in there and the emotions through this 3D body, connecting the 3D through the transformation, because the transformation for me, what I want, what I have now presently, and what I'm dreaming of and what I'm imagining is, I always feel in my highest good, easiest path. And if it's not, this transformation here will change the script a little bit for me, will change the story, as long as I have no attachment to the story I'm creating in the Godhead. So living in the future, maybe present, like in presence, imagining and living in the future in the Godhead by about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes, a year, whatever you feel comfortable with. You have to feel comfortable with the timeline. In order to get into the Godhead, this experience, time, your heart holds all timelines. If you want to get on that timeline, you have to be okay with the past timelines. You really have to come into neutrality. Right here, the body complex, all your organs need to come into neutrality. I hope that helps. I've been wanting to make this vlog for a few days, but I just didn't know how to do it because it's so personal. But I always, in my mind, when I'm doing this creating, I work with these cards, right? Like the Empress, she's sitting on the box and her third eye is in the box, but she's holding the sphere, and the bird is giving her wisdom. Don't forget, girl. Don't forget your consciousness. Look at this. You're part of this sphere, but here you're holding it behind you and you're really cupping on that sphere. She's got the moon under her feet. Don't forget. So in my mind's eye, she gets off that square. She gets off that box. And she creates her own cube. It's kind of like a floating cube. And then she kind of holds this sphere with her 3 fingers. The thumb, remember the thumb is how we began to create with our hands, really. She holds this sphere in her hands and she kind of becomes the magician. And in time, like throughout time, and all this imagination, if you purchase my book, my workbook, it's on Amazon. It's on this website too. I just have to put a Square reader to it so people can purchase it. I think I'm on this site. I'm going to make it for $9.99. I just got to do that. So it's it'll be a download. But anyways, I learned how to do this the same way I show you how to work the workbook. I give you steps, do this now, visualize this now, play around with this card today. I did this the same way, and this is what's happened for me now is now these characters are getting up. They're kind of doing their thing. And recently what's happened is this Empress has now invited, she started a spiral. So, what I wanted, my imagination is now in the Godhead. But it's funny because, I mean, the characters in my mind's eye were manifesting through the Godhead. I was consciously creating what I wanted in the black sphere. And this one popped in. This dude popped in. So now she's got a yang to her yin in the Godhead, and a spiral started to be created. She started fractalizing. And this just happened because I play around with these archetypes so much. So I don't know what that means, but I will let you know. This just happened for me not too long ago, and that's why I wanted to make this vlog. Anyways, please comment on your style of working with the archetypes or any sort of the major arcana of the tarot cards. I mean, what do you do? How do you play around with them? How do you imagine with them? Do those imaginations come into fruition? Love you guys.